In this video, we're going to go through adding and editing employees. Um, this is obviously going to be pretty important for the security of your system, for making sure that employees can do what you want them to do and not other things. Um, so it's worth knowing. Right now, we're starting with our database we've been using for these other videos. So we've got a single employee in there, the default employee, who is set up as an administrator. So we're going to add a new employee. We're going to make them JS for my name. The only fields that you have to fill out here are a cashier ID, which is 2 characters, letters or numbers. So it could be JS, initials, or it could be O2 or whatever. Um, the rest of this is purely informational. It's to make it easier for you to track them. The tablet password is used if you're using the iPad register, but other than that, it's all purely informational in this top part. Now the bottom part's something different, so we'll get into that. You'll need to fill in a password and confirm it. It's got to be all uh, letters and numbers up to, it's got to be 7 characters or longer. It is case sensitive. It is very important that you make sure you remember how you type it in terms of like if the caps lock key is on or anything like that. But that said, if you forget it, you can always reset it through here. The main thing is if you forget the administrator one, only administrators can get in here. So if you don't remember your passwords for any of your administrator accounts, you're going to have to call us and get help. So down below, there's a little more interesting things, more important things. Um, so this drop-down box here, this is just a list of preset up permissions lists. So we're going to ignore that for the moment. But on customer scheduler means if you're using the scheduler function and you're doing it by employees. So a good example is like in salons or if you've got technicians, this employee will be listed on there for one as one who customers can have appointments with. Um, Active indicates that the employee will appear on the time clock and that kind of thing. If they're not active, then usually it means they're no longer with the company. Administrator is definitely the most important of these checkboxes. If it's checked, none of your other checks matter. The administrator employees have permission to do everything that any employee can do. And the reason for that is simply that they can get into this screen. And so they could give themselves permission to anything. So there's no point in denying it to them. Store settings, that covers things like managing your promotions, managing your settings screen. Departments and categories indicates that they can add and edit departments and categories. Vendors is the same, but for vendors. Physical inventory indicates that they can use the physical inventory process, which effectively lets them set all of your stock levels. Um, Purchase orders, instant purchase orders, vendor returns. Permission to that gives them the ability to use those key inventory management functions. Reports, you can either give them permissions for all reports or specific reports. By default, if you have specific reports, you won't have permission to any. But if you want to see the list of reports, you just hit manage and it will give you a full list of every report in the system. If it's checked, they can do it. If it's not checked, they can't. Other than obviously for an administrator. If you have all reports, you just get all of them. Sale transactions refers to things at the register. So whether you can change prices, whether a price change limit gets enforced, if you can change prices. If you can't change prices, this doesn't do anything. Um, Whether you can delete items once they're added to the register, and whether you can use the open cash drawer function. Um, Even if you can't use the open cash drawer function, if you do a transaction where the cash drawer should pop, such as a transaction where they gave you cash, it will pop. Um, so those are all at the register. For items, this is item maintenance. View just means you can get in there and edit the in particular items and see the details on it. You can look at a list of items regardless because you have to be able to do lookups at the register to add items to it. Add is the ability to create new items. Update is the ability to update items that have already been added. That's separate from adding. You can have one but not the other. Change quantities and change costs are subsets of editing. If you can edit, you don't necessarily have the ability to change your stock levels and your costs. Customers, this is referring to management of customers here. So add and edit are the same as add and update are for items. Transactions are the ability to do adjustments and payments to the account balance of the customer. And adjust reward points is a very specific field on customers, which is how many rewards points they have. Finally, there's a couple miscellaneous things, whether or not you can print barcodes, um, whether or not you can void past invoices. Now, even if you have that permission, that only works for the current day until end of day. Whether you can adjust the gift card balance, that's for store gift cards. If you are using a processor such as Mercury Pay gift cards, then any adjustments will have to be done through them. Once you're done setting up the permissions you want that cashier to have, just hit save. If you want to edit somebody, it's very similar. You just hit edit, but you'll notice the password and confirm password are blank. And unless you fill something in, it just means it's going to leave it the same as what it was. It won't show you what it was, but it will leave it the same. Um, that's pretty much it for employees. Um, for any further questions on this, you may want to look at the register video and the other various videos. Most of them were written from the point of view of somebody who has permission to do things. If we were to log in as this cashier who does not have many permissions to do anything, so we will log in as this cashier who is not an administrator. So if we go under system administration, we'll see that settings just isn't there. If we go to store, we'll see that items and departments and categories, they're just not there. And that tends to be how the permissions work. If you can't do it a lot of times, I mean, in some cases it will give you an error, but in a lot of cases it simply will not be there if you do not have permission to do it.